Commutify presents Between the Lines with Andy Keaton. Each week, we explore the challenging issues transportation demand management professionals face on their journey to transition commuters from driving alone to more sustainable, shared, and active commuting habits. Be sure to subscribe to hear next week's episode and check out our exclusive commuter playlists on Spotify. This is Between the Lines with Andy Keaton.
Hi, everyone, and welcome aboard to Between the Lines. Today we're talking with Josh Galasso. Josh currently serves as the Transportation Demand Manager for Louisiana State University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where he oversees the communication, research, analysis, planning, and development of transportation programs and services for the university. He also currently serves as the chair of the Higher Education Council for the Association for Commuter Transportation, or ACT, and that's really what we're talking about today. Josh, first, thanks for being on.
I appreciate the opportunity.
And like I said, we're talking today about the Higher Education Council at ACT, part of our ACT Council Spotlight mini-series. We're talking about all of the councils and bringing in the leadership from all the different councils and putting those together. So make sure you check those out, learn a little bit more about what the Association for Commuter Transportation is and how you can get involved and why it's important to join. But today, like I mentioned, we're talking about the Higher Education Council. And maybe if we can just start off, Josh, tell me, what is the Higher Education Council and who is it for?
Yeah, so Higher Education Council is a relatively newer council in terms of the ones that have been a part of ACT since the association began. It is formed for those that are involved in the higher education area, whether that be community colleges, small two-year institutions, pretty much anyone that educates on the secondary level, across really the United States and beyond. One of our council leaders is a transportation director in Canada, so we span all the way up there. So it's good to see what's going on, across the U.S. In North America, really. So we're excited about what the future holds. Our goals are really to focus on the ever-changing world that is higher education and those issues within transportation that may affect that. We're unique in that we're most part a closed campus setting, but have all the same issues that a lot of the municipalities face. So we have to face those and address them in the same ways that a lot of the municipalities do. So it presents its own set of issues, and this provides us that opportunity to discuss them across the board with others, figure out what they're doing, what they've done well, what they have tried to implement, and what is successful on. It's a great opportunity to discuss some of the newest technology. They also have another ACT council that's involved in, but not in a leadership role, which is a newer one. That's a technology council. And so we really kind of blend with them, looking to them for some of the newer technology that's out there, ways that it could be implemented on our own university campuses and support some of our TDM programs. So there's a lot, but it's exciting to be a part of that. I've been a part of ACT since I got involved a couple years ago, and been excited to be a part of it and get involved in this level now. And for me and those leaders, our goal is to really grow the council and grow those that are a part of ACT across all the higher education institutions. So,
and I know the Higher Education Council has had some new leadership, and we're excited as well. I mean, I'm excited to see where the council goes with you at the helm and the rest of the new team there. I think you mentioned an interesting thing too, which is, universities, colleges, you're kind of like an employer, you're kind of like a city. There's some sort of mix there. It's hard to know. So being able to talk to others seems valuable. Can you tell me just a little bit more, just, from your job at LSU or from, your conversations you're having, why is engaging in TDM or transportation demand management so important at university and college campuses?
Well, I mean, For sure, one of those issues is, unique to universities, that you have individuals that are there on campus and they need ways to get across campus. Some of them may have vehicles, some of them may not. And then you've got those that commute to campus and the issues that present themselves for those that try to come to campus and find a spot within relatively close proximity, and trying to avoid the issues that tend to plague campuses where students are wasting gas, driving around in circles, trying to find a parking space, and then, avoid walking, and trying to boost even the transit programs that support that. And, in a lot of cases, even support the municipalities that they're based out of. For our example, we supply service to the city, and the city office also allows some of our students to utilize some of their services as well. So it's a joint partnership that expands even further out to the municipals. It's something that is required. It's a necessity. Number one issue on university campuses is parking. It's an issue. How do you address them? How do you get them around? And TDM is solving that and creating opportunities to address some of those bigger issues that you're faced with, whether it's, expanding your transit program, whether it's, looking at rideshare programs, whether it's, carpool programs that you can develop and incentivize the students to do those, whether it's biking, any of those programs that are out there. Perfect place is to grow and to develop that and honestly learn, is in our higher education institutions. So it really is a good opportunity to grow TDM within the industry and look at trends in its own unique setting.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it can also kind of be a petri dish, just like universities are testing, the latest technologies and doing research. Might as well be doing it in TDM as well. Makes sense. Yeah. So you mentioned, going back to ACT and the council here, you mentioned that one of the things that is really great about it is being able to connect with other universities and other professionals in the same kind of higher education space across North America. Would you say that's kind of like the main thing, the main reason someone should get involved in the Higher Education Council? Or is there other stuff that's, going on that is valuable for people to know about?
Well, it's definitely one of the bigger perks of being a part of ACT and the Higher Education Council, because you have a network of professionals that, like I said earlier, are facing the same problems you are. So you can ask them, hey, what are you guys doing to address, the problems such as, scooters that everybody wants on their campus? What are you looking at from a carpool program? What kind of options and programs have you implemented on your own campus to address that? That provides an opportunity for you to, discuss those issues with other individuals that may have already implemented them or looking to implement them, and, kind of see what's worked, what didn't work. That's obviously one of the biggest things that I personally get, out of the council and being a part of ACT, but it goes even further than that. For example, one of the goals of our current group, when we set our work plan, was to look at ways that we can create the next round of TDM professionals within, the natural building block we have. We're a higher education institution. What better place to look for the best future professionals in that industry and to groom them and get them involved in these activities than our own backyard? And so we're looking at trying to figure out ways to bridge that, to create, grow student participation in ACT, which I know is a goal of the National Council. They've discussed that, how do we nurture this profession, and looking to higher education institutions to do that. It's just a natural, marriage to where you have a large stock of individuals that are, maybe an engineer, maybe they're, technology based. Maybe they're studying sustainability trends. You have so many individuals you can look to educate and get involved in this to create another level of, TDM professionals out there. And so that's where Acton Higher Education comes in to support, the National Council as a whole. And we're excited to play a role in that. So,
and I think that's a great idea. I think a lot of people who find themselves in TDM today didn't know they were going to fall into TDM. It's not like there's a bachelor's degree in TDM or something. So you're coming from a bunch of different places. I think this is great. Yeah, bring people into the field when they're young and hungry and looking for something cool to do.
Yeah,
it's a great field, and this seems like a cool initiative.
It is, and for me, and my own observation is that TDM it's a relatively young field. I mean, you've got professionals that have been involved in some capacity in this regard for a long time, but for example, in LSU, when we launched our mobility implementation plan, is when we saw the need for a TDM professional to come in, and so for other places around the world, honestly, they're just now getting to that point. And so the profession is really in the infancy stages. And I see, huge opportunities within the TDM industry, and what does that look like? I think that's a great discussion point. I've discussed that with some of the TDM leaders and ACT, and to see, what that looks like, how can we nurture that, support it? Because, like myself, I got into TDM because of my backgrounds and skills that kind of led me to that position, but wasn't a pure TDM centered individual when I first got into it. I know a lot of people are like that, but, how can we nurture that moving forward to create another, level of professionals in the industry? I guess that's a question that we have to discuss, but it's interesting to see what the trends are within the industry and, what the next level of professionals do, what they look like, and how that's going to be evolving.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a compelling reason as well to join the council and be a part of this and help kind of figure out what that looks like. What is the future TDM professional look like? It's pretty interesting. And it gets into my last question as well, which, this is a big piece of it, but where do you see the future of TDM in higher education? Where do you think we're going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 50 years? What is it going to look like?
That's a tough question.
I'm asking you to predict the future, but let's see.
I do see the evolution of autonomous vehicles on university campuses. I see for sure, looking at from my side, looking at how can we support sustainable activities such as EV charging stations, whether that be looking at going away from our old diesel buses to going to full electric, in ways that we can support that initiative. How can we be better stewards of the environment, in ways to support that and not, hurt it, essentially, because that's one of the goals we look at. How can I decrease one, single occupancy vehicle usage on my campus? What are some things that we could do right away to look at doing that? Two, how can we lower the number of vehicles that are just driving around for 20, 30 minutes, which sounds outrageous, but they do it looking for a space, and then what are the other programs you can grow from just a micro mobility standpoint? Bike sharing, biking programs on campus. We're not quite at the level where we're putting scooters on our campus yet, but it's going to come. So I definitely see that. I don't know how long that fad will be in there. I'm sure the next thing is going to come around, and they may be like Michael J. Fox and floating around on hoverboards. I don't know, but it'd be kind of cool.
Yep.
So I do see that evolving. And how we can grow that within our own industry, and on our university campuses. I see that as the next wave. The other thing that's exciting to me, which I personally love, and that's why I got involved in the Technology Council as a whole too, is how can I use technology to create a better user experience, create a better customer experience moving forward? How can I impact their drive from wherever they're coming, whether that's somewhere on campus to another place on campus or somewhere out of campus to campus, and even our faculty and staff? How can we create a better solution for them? We're looking at that. One of the things we actually recently did, working with one of our university professors to create an application that finds available parking, tells them where they park their vehicle, tells them the probabilities of finding parking in certain areas, and it's a lot less expensive to utilize that technology than it is. A lot of the universities install cameras, and then you have to go run the fiber across campus and infrastructure that goes with that. And there's a lot of competitors out there that do that. Well, this individual on our campus is actually it's his doctorate in astrophysics, and just loves crunching numbers. And he was like, "This is a number problem that I want to crunch. How can I solve or help parking on this campus?" So we met with them, and essentially teamed up with a computer engineering student and created this application. And so we're testing it on our university campus. So far, so good. And eventually, we may see what the future holds as far as him, offering it up to other universities to see. But, that's a perfect example of utilizing the skilled people that you have in your campus to impact parking or transportation or, TDM. It's, something that we found awesome. We got someone that just like, you would think of an astrophysics, worried about parking, but he definitely did and came up with a solution. So it's working really well so far.
That's cool. And I agree. I mean, I think if you want to understand where the future of TDM is going, look at the universities and college campuses, because those are the petri dishes, like we mentioned earlier. That's where the new stuff's going to come. The new innovation's going to be coming out of research that's happening there, or maybe even an astrophysics PhD here or there. Yeah. I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to hear about what's going on with the Higher Education Council, and I'm glad to see that that's growing. And it sounds like there's a lot of cool stuff coming down the pipe there. So, thanks again for joining me, Josh. For those watching too, you'll notice Josh is in a hotel room. It's because he's doing his job as a leader. You're in Virginia right now, visiting another campus and helping him set up some systems. It's pretty cool. A pretty cool setup you've got there.
Yeah, we're excited. I don't know. I do want to mention that we mentioned on the last council meeting, for those that are watching, there is a university up in Chicago that is not currently an ACT member. And so we're going to be hosting them and using it as an opportunity to tour their campus, see the facilities, figure out, what they've been doing, what they, would like to do and improve, and offer our expertise in that area with a lot of the professionals that are going to be at the international conference in Chicago. And hopefully we can recruit them to be an ACT member. So I would encourage, as that information is released, help us recruit them to ACT. Go partake in that little tour of the university, and help us get some newer members to ACT as a whole. So we're excited about that opportunity. I know they're going to be sending some information out as they finalize that. Once they do, I don't know if David or someone's going to be sending that out, but it'll definitely be sent out in the next month or so.
That's awesome. Yeah, and a good opportunity to explore a new place and get new people to the table and have some more conversations. Well, Josh, thanks for joining me. This was a great conversation. I'll see you in Chicago at the International Conference for sure. And, to all of our listeners and viewers today, thanks for joining, and make sure to reach out to Josh if you have any questions. If you are from a college, university, and not a part of the Higher Education Council, or even not a part of ACT at all, reach out to me or Josh, and you'll be able to learn some more about that and get involved. Josh, thanks for joining us.
Hey, not a problem. I appreciate it. It's fun.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Between the Lines with Andy Keaton. Be sure to subscribe to hear next week's episode and check out our exclusive commuter playlists on Spotify.